Hello, everybody, and welcome to an exclusive Double Waved Yellows podcast. It is VSC, no, not virtual safety car. It is very special content. Today, we're going to be having a bit more of an in-depth look into the track limits and the issues that it's been raising over the last couple of weeks. Joining me once again are Tyson and Hodders. Tyson, hello, thanks for joining.
Hey up, anytime.
Good stuff. And Hodders, we've got quite a fair bit to discuss today.
We have indeed. The joys of track limits, eh?
Absolutely. So, coming up on the podcast today, we're going to be looking into the controversy surrounding the track limits at Bahrain, whether Verstappen was right to hand the place back to Hamilton or not, and should Hamilton have had any penalties in there. We're going to look at what it explicitly says in the F1 rules and also the notes handed down by the race director. We're going to also have a bit of a chat about what the expectations are from the fans, from the drivers, from the teams, and also we're going to have a brief look at the next circuit, which is the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari, also known as Imola. So, the turn 4 at Bahrain. This caused a lot of discussion. First to show, so this is what the racing line it would normally be. So, little yellow there, and then the curbing area on the exit of turn 4, this area, this is what has caused all the hassle. Tyson, I'll start with you. Why did it cause so much controversy?
Right, so on the director's event notes, it said the track limits at the exit of turn 4 will not be monitored with regard to setting a lap time, as the defining limits are the artificial grass and the gravel track in that location. However, later, after free practice 1, a lap time achieved during any practice session by leaving the track and cutting behind the red and white curve on the exit of turn 4 will result in that lap time being invalidated by the stewards. So I think a lot of the controversy has come in that they changed it halfway through, but then they did not apply that to the race.
Yeah, that's always tricky. Hodders, it's always an issue in any sport when there appears to be inconsistency in the application of the rules, but it's the fact that you've got the race winner on multiple occasions was going off track and wasn't getting a penalty. The one time Verstappen does, he has to concede a place.
Yeah, it does seem rather inconsistent. I mean, I think, as was mentioned, Lewis Hamilton left the track there almost 30 times, and I think it was by about lap 30. I've got my notes from the race itself. I remember the pit crew telling Max, "Oh, Lewis is cutting here. We'll do it until we're told not to." And Max is thinking, "Is this legal?" So even he was questioning the veracity of whether or not you could do it or not. It's always a case of interpretation, whether it should have been stamped out earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just cover what the two key bits are in the rules. So first of all, Article 27.3 from the Formula 1 sporting regulations. Now this is effectively, if you like, the laws of the game. These are the rules that govern anything to do with Formula 1. So it clearly says drivers will be judged to have left the track if no part of the car remains in contact with it, and for the avoidance of doubt, any white lines defining the track edges are considered to be part of the track, but the curbs are not. Should a car leave the track, the driver may rejoin. However, this may only be done when it's safe to do so and without gaining any lasting advantage. At the absolute discretion of the race director, a driver may be given the opportunity to give back the whole of any advantage he gained by leaving the track. Now, just to give you a couple of examples here, so taken from the Codemasters F1 game, so on board with Verstappen, and what he is doing here is absolutely legal. So yes, his left-hand side of the car is off that white line as we see, but the right-hand side of the car absolutely fine. So that is completely legitimate. However, this is not. As you can see, all four wheels. It's not just off, beyond the white line. It's actually beyond the turn 4 track limits. And I think this is a key bit is, and I'll just go back to the notes here. So it's very, very clear here. Yeah, the track is defined by the white lines. The curbs are not part of it. Okay, so Verstappen was absolutely clean dead. He's off the track. That can't happen. I think here's the ambiguous part: is should a car leave the track must be done with safety, so without gaining any lasting advantage. Now, Verstappen, he passed Hamilton. He's clearly got a lasting advantage. He's told by race director Michael Massey to give the place back, which he does, and obviously then carry on. Now, Lewis Hamilton, in fact, he's gone off there 30 times throughout the race. You'd have to argue, well, there is now a lasting advantage, but how do you hand it back? How do you calculate it? This is where all the controversy has stemmed from, really. Tyson, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it just comes down to the consistency. You can't really call one permissible and the other not permissible. If you're going to give a penalty for one overtake off the white lines and someone else is continually going off the white lines, surely they should be penalised as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to also give a bit more clarity here, so throughout all of the 2020 season, I think a lot of the 2019 season, it was mentioned regularly in the race director notes, which are handed out at the driver's briefing and the team manager's briefing, either on a Thursday or if it's Monaco, the Wednesday before the cars even go anywhere near the track. And what you'll usually say is, in terms of the track limits, is if you exceed track limits at certain turns, your lap time is deleted. Now, that's practice, qualifying, and the race. If you do it 3 times in the race, then you get the black and white diagonal warning flag, and that is at the race directors. That's not coming down from the stewards. If you're shown that is told. If you do that again after that, that will be reported to the stewards, and the stewards are the ones who have the authority to impose any sort of penalty. So I think it's fair to say that had the rules of engagement that were being applied last year been applied to Lewis Hamilton, he either would have got a lot of penalties, or it would have been a case that on third occasion he just would not have done it again, and potentially we could have been looking at a different result here.
I think they could have been, and I think it would also been a different result as well. If potentially, maybe not have been, if they'd been applied consistently during the race as well. I mean, as mentioned before, Lewis Hamilton was exploiting that possible inconsistency for quite a great deal of the race, and on the one occasion that Max decided to go for it, he got pulled up on it.
And also, so I mean, to add further fuel to the fire, here's where the real controversy started to lie here. So these were the race director notes issued on the Thursday before the start of the race, and it clearly says here, Section 21 track limits. The track limits at the exit of turn 4 will not be monitored with regard to setting a lap time, as the defining limits are the artificial grass and the gravel trap in that location. So that already is saying to the drivers, oh, okay, we can basically pretty much do what we want at turn 4. Now, after Friday first practice, as Tyson rightly said, they then changed it. So practice and qualifying, a lap time achieved during any practice session by leaving the track and cutting behind the red and white curb on the exit of turn 4 will result in that lap time being invalidated by the stewards. However, the key bit here, 21.2, the track limits at the turn 4 will not be monitored. So no change to how track limits would be going to be policed for the race. And of course, that's where we've seen a lot of issues come up. Tyson, you also came across an interesting nugget that we didn't spot on the Double Wave Yellows podcast last week in regards to Bottas.
Yeah, this was Thomas May that pointed this out on Twitter, that Bottas set the fastest lap and gained the extra point while having all 4 wheels off the track on turn 4.
It's surprising that Race Control didn't spot that, but anyway, never mind. So, what I think this is the key bit that we need to go to look at and sort of discuss, really. Tyson, what do you think the fans' expectations would be when we have these issues? And to be fair, not just track limits, but any sort of violation of the rules where it's subject to interpretation. And I think,
I think, again, it just needs to be consistency, because a few years ago we had all the controversy with moving around in the braking zone. The FIA, they set the clear guidelines, what they expected of that, and they know the rules from that point. And that's what they need to start doing with track limits now.
So, yeah, as I say, we remember that when you had drivers moving in the braking zone to defend their positions, and in the lower category, you had some appalling accidents, and rightly so. For safety reasons, they've said no, you cannot do that. And that's come from the drivers and the teams, mainly for, I would say, for safety reasons, but also from a sporting context. Hodders, what are the fans' expectations in these sorts of scenarios?
I think the expectations of fans, whether they're diehards or the occasional viewers, I once was, and getting back to being a more regular viewer, my expectations, and I'm looking as a fan who also, has read policies throughout his working life, I think the expectations are that the rules are there to be followed rather than bent or broken, and that they're complied with and applied consistently throughout the whole race and the whole weekend, come to think of it.
Absolutely, yeah. Any sport, anywhere in the world, you want consistency, because then if person A does this and gets the penalty for it, if person B does this at a later date, they are going to get the same penalty. So let's have a look at the next track on the calendar, the Imola track, and these are the two areas where last year they looked at track limits. So turn 9, it's at the top of the hill into a fast sweeping left-hander, and there is a curb on the exit of turn 9, which a lot of drivers were going over and obviously able to carry more speed. And similarly, at the turn 14-15, the Variante Alta chicane there, similarly a sort of a runoff area on the exit of turn 15. And last year, the rules were that during practice and qualifying, if you went off at either of these places, your time was deleted. And in the race, if you did it a combined total of 3 times, so it wasn't the case you could have 2 goes at Piratella and 2 goes at Variante. If you did it 3 times, you got the black and white warning flag. If you did it again, obviously the stewards would be referred to the stewards. And that's probably what we're expecting from Michael Massey, the FIA race director, for next weekend. And I think that's the best way to do it, isn't it? 3 strikes, then you've got a yellow card effectively. Is that fair, Hodders?
I think that's a fair way of doing it. I think it's just a case of, we want things consistent. I think the sort of 3 strikes and you're penalised makes a lot of sense. I mean, it may well be that the first time could just be unintentional. I think no driver is perfect. All drivers are human. They may make the occasional infraction once. Once as a first warning is fine, and then to take the further action from the second or third time makes a lot of sense.
I think that's a very, very good point there. Yeah, once, it could just be you're just pushing that little bit too hard, and the teams are then told on the race time screen, lap deleted. Effectively your first warning. I think if they go and do it then a further 2 occasions to get 3 strikes, I think, Tyson, that's fair at that point for both the teams and race control to be saying, do not do that again.
Yeah, that's definitely fair, because they're pushing these cars hard to get them around the track as fast as possible. So occasionally, they're going to go outside the lines. But
it's they're giving the drivers a little bit of leniency, but there's only so much where they can go. And of course, there's other circuits we do visit on the F1 calendar where if you go over the white lines, it's not a curb you're going up against, it's the barriers. So there has to be obviously the consistency there as well. So coming up next week, we have got, of course, the Imola Grand Prix. The week after, we'll be back to discuss everything that happened on the Double Wave Yellows podcast. And then the week after that, we have the Portuguese Grand Prix. My thanks to Hodders and Tyson for joining us for this VSC exclusive. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and put a comment below. And we will see you next time. From all of us, bye-bye.